If we're all ready, I'm going to walk us through the first 3 or 4 slides. This is Memorial Day weekend coming up, and we've chosen at this roundtable to memorialize some giants from the investing world. I told you, some of you previously, and Mark and I, when he showed me this opening slide to begin with, asked me to see how many I could identify. I got 5 correct the first time through. And I think he's going to share with you who these people are just a little bit later. But I hope you all recognize George Nicholson, the very first picture to the extreme left of this group of distinguished financiers. But these are some folks that have passed away and that we owe an awful lot to with our methodology. The things that we do come directly from what a lot of these gentlemen teach and from what a lot of these gentlemen tell us is important. So it's heartening sometimes and enlightening sometimes to pause and remember what they've taught us, and also to celebrate the lives of these very important people in our financial investing life, that part of what we do. The next slide is a standard disclaimer. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to talk about our agenda first, and after we get through with this welcome, Mark's going to lead us through the big picture this evening, and he's going to talk a little bit about the scoreboard. We have a challenge. We haven't had a challenge for a long time. In fact, this might be the very first challenge we've actually had in the club. We're going to challenge Costco and decide whether to keep it in the portfolio or not. We're also going to update 2 of our stocks, Staples and Zhong Pin. I think Mark's picking on my stocks right now. These happen to be 2 of my picks. I'm not faring as well right now as I would like to be in this very informal kind of contest. And then we have some picks that are coming from the 4 of us at the round table. We're aiming at about an hour and 15 minutes if you're watching the clock. Again, we're going to be speaking about specific stocks. We're going to be speaking in real time. We're going to be using real data and real prices. And we're making absolutely no investment recommendation. We're not asking you to sell something. We're not asking you to buy something. We are urging you to do your own studies, do your own homework, and draw your own conclusions. The Better Investing community is all about education, and we feel that if you're an educated investor, then you should be able to draw your own conclusions as to whether a stock belongs in your portfolio or whether it doesn't belong in your portfolio. I think I have one more slide to look at. Basically, the purpose of the roundtable is to put together a sample portfolio. We're trying to put together a portfolio that represents many types of stocks, both core holdings and even some non-core selections. Those non-core selections might end up being cyclical companies or pure value plays or turnaround situations, but we will be looking at those occasionally in this exercise. We'd love to maintain this portfolio with a long-term relative return of 5%. And in simple English, that means that we'd like to beat the Wilshire 5000 Index Fund by 5 points on a regular basis. We are doing better than we were doing the last couple of months. We're moving into a place where we're at least becoming respectable. Our accuracy goal, we'd like to see 60 to 70% of our stocks making a contribution to this long-term relative return of +5, and we want the whole portfolio to beat the Wilshire 5000 Index Fund. So Mark, why don't you kind of give us an idea of where we stand at the moment after, I think this is our 7th, maybe our 8th month right now.
Yeah, in fact, before we get started into the big picture, I noticed tonight that our accuracy is actually up just under 50%. So that's coming up significantly from where it was, and we know that it is possible to basically end up in that 60 to 70% range. We still are off a couple percentage points on the relative return. So again, it's early. We've been doing this since last July, and we'll just keep making the best selections we can, and we think over the long term, we really think our method works. So with that, what I thought we would do, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just wanted to You know, you guys have been probably sitting out there trying to figure out who some of these people are, and I thought I would take them from left to right and just maybe share a story or a thought or two, but only just take a couple of minutes. Again, the first guy, for those of you that don't know, I think most of the people in the audience tonight already know that is Mr. Nicholson. He's regarded as the grandfather or the founder of the modern investment club movement. Basically, the National Association of Investors was his idea in conjunction with Tom O'Hara back in the late 1940s, and that organization has been in place now for basically 60 years. We'll be down in Cincinnati here in a couple months celebrating 60 years of educating, making investors better educated and more successful over the long term. Second guy is the person named by probably Nicholson, I don't know that for a fact, but definitely Tom O'Hara and Ken Janke when they talked about the strongest influences on the better investing community over the years. His name is David L. Babson. He is literally regarded as the father, one of the fathers of growth investing. Another perhaps is T. Rowe Price. But David Babson it basically pointed out that you could do pretty well investing in growth companies, and he also contributed a number of very nice industry analysis, industry studies to the pages of Better Investing magazine for about 30 years. The next guy passed away just, I believe, last month, Joe Battipaglia. We give him credit for basically showing us the way in economics and overall market analysis, but I think what I remember Joe best for was he's actually served as a keynote speaker at a couple of the Better Investing national conferences. And the neat thing about Joe is he you know, when he was done talking, he actually came down and spent time with us, you know, in the evening after hours session, you know, right down in the lounge, literally hung out with us, and just a heck of a nice guy. Ken has already talked about Mark Haynes. Mark passed away just a couple of days ago, and Ken already hit the highlights. You know, he was one of the original, you know, financial media people, you know, in the video world. I mean, he was one of the founding anchors at CNBC, and he's widely regarded for his passion for, well, just passionate journalism, and deeply respected in the media. The next guy I think is a favorite to many of us. Those of you that have been around for a while remember public broadcasting, and This Week on Wall Street used to air every Friday night with Lou Rukeyser. He was not with us tonight. He was going to say a couple words about Lou Rukeyser. A couple years ago, when the market when we were entering the Great Recession and things really looked pretty nasty out there, Hugh McManus shared in our forum, and the links are still there, a bunch of YouTube videos that actually helped us to relive some of the Lou Rukeyser moments. And you know, one of the ones that's absolutely unforgettable was the night following the crash of October 1987. And he let off the show that night. I'll never get the words exactly right, but to paraphrase, he said, you know, in times like this, you have to really focus in on the things that matter in life, the things that are really important. You know, your dog still loves you. Your children still love you. Your spouse probably still loves you. But, you know, just, again, keeping life in context. And I think many of us used to turn to that show. I remember back in the early to mid-'90s, that was a staple for us. And, in fact, we watched many segments in our investment club just to do that and experience Mr. Rukeyser. If we have a little bit of time, I actually have a couple other stories that I could tell about him. The next guy, the second one from the right, is Benjamin Graham. Again, he's regarded as a rock, the anchor that, you know, coming out of the crazy stock market of the 1920s and early 1930s, he said we just have to bring some sanity to this, and he established security analysis or fundamental analysis. He is known as the friend and the teacher and the mentor of Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett regards Ben Graham as the #1 influence on his life. And the last guy's a little bit more obscure, but I think worthy of the same type of honor and attention, Arnold Bernhard. He's the guy who basically invented or founded Value Line, the Value Line Investment Survey. And again, I credit him with helping to put research in the hands of the people and to basically put a little pressure on to make research more timely and more available to people like us. So I think that's just an outstanding contribution. Ken or Cy, did you have any comments that you wanted to add to any of these people?
I think you've covered it real nicely, Mark.
Okay.
I agree.
Good. We'll just press on because we do have a bunch of stuff to cover tonight, guys. So we'll just go ahead and take it from there. We have a little extra time at the end. We can perhaps solicit some comments from the audience also. So how are we doing? What you see here on your screen is the scoreboard. I think it's up. Is that showing up? Okay. It's our scoreboard where we basically keep track of every recommendation or every position that is added to the portfolio. We track every single one versus the return on the market since the time of selection. The difference between the two columns on the right is what is shown in the final column, that relative return, and we want more green numbers there. We will have more green numbers there eventually, but we just want more green numbers there. And we did flag a couple of the weaker performing companies to take a look at, Staples and Hogs, and Ken, I'll correct you, it's not me that's picking on you, it's the rhinos that are driving those prices down.
And Mark, I want it known that in August when we made our 4 picks, my pick was SEIC. So that Staples pick belongs to somebody else, and I don't want to pin it on my head here. Okay.
Oh, okay. You escaped that one then.
Yes, I did.
No,
I was surprised when you claimed it, Ken, because my recollection was the empty chair picked it.
That's what it looks like, because I know that you picked First Niagara, Cy.
Yes.
And Mark maintains that he picked Walgreens, although I'm sure that it was my pick. But you know,
well, I think all the attendees should look at those numbers on the far right, and I definitely am going to claim Walgreens.
Okay.
That one's up pretty nicely. But the one position that you see there that is highlighted and yellowed in is the one position we got cold feet and walked away from Strayer towards the end of last year, and that's the one position that has been closed by the 4 of us. And we'll be talking tonight about a challenge to Costco. Okay, here's the rest of the ones, the more recent picks, and again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but here's some of the more recent picks. We're actually doing better lately, and there's more green numbers on the right. We're still a couple of percentage points below where we want to be, but as I said, our accuracy is beginning to approach 50, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see that number shaping up in the near future. Moving on to the next one, and by the way, we usually get a question, and by this point for the newcomers, we do make all of these slides available on the Manifest forum and in a couple of different places, but you can also write to any of us and get access to it also, but we make the slides available after the session. What you see here is the top half of the Roundtable tracking portfolio. The companies at the top would be those which would be deemed a little bit more attractive, maybe a little bit dicey based on the cautionary yellow coating on the right. But as Cy's going to demonstrate, I think he's going to do some shopping within the portfolio, hanging out at the top end of that sweet spot, the green coated ones on the right. But again, this portfolio is out there online and can be looked at any time. Here is the bottom half, and this kind of forms our entree into the challenge portion of the meeting. We rank the dashboard from top to bottom, ascending to actually in descending order on the projected return. The stock with the lowest projected return is Costco Wholesale, ticker symbol at the bottom that you see there, COST. It's actually up 32% since the time of selection. That value column is the value of $1,000 invested at the time of selection. On the previous slide, some of those have been multiple selections, and we'll explain that at the end of the meeting, that we actually call that out so you can tell. But $1,000 invested in Costco, and this one I believe was a humanist pick, is actually up 32%. The reason I know that is because it's up to $13.22.55 in that value column. But as a result of the fairly strong run-up in price, the projected return has dipped into mid-single digits, so that is one that Mr. Lynch would like to at least call onto the carpet and make some judgments about. Before we jump into that, I just wanted to show another way of displaying the portfolio, and one of the reasons I wanted to do this is I've added the value line low total return forecast as that last column on the right, just so you can do some kind of side-by-side comparisons. What we find is we look through the entire universe of companies at Manifest that it is quite natural quite normal for the two numbers. The projected return at manifest matches up the value line low total return forecast quite a bit of the time. There are some notable exceptions, like that first one on the list, but that's when you can only dig in and figure out what you believe. But you can see that Costco wholesale is down towards the bottom of this list. Value line basically has a fairly low total return expectation for them also. In the last three, there are extended edition companies that don't have a low total return forecast from value line.